Starcraft Remastered got announced. This game's a little more succinct. RTS.
That's a weird way to describe StarCraft.
I know. Well, compared to everything. Eric.
Yes.
You like StarCraft.
I do.
Did you play the original a lot?
Yeah, I played the original and Brood War a lot in high school. And I think I felt like as I was growing up, at least for me, I played a lot more RTS games than I do now.
Yeah.
I don't think that outside of when StarCraft 2 first came out, I've really touched any RTS since back then with Command & Conquer and StarCraft and stuff like that and Warcraft. So it's interesting to see it get remastered. But for the longest time, this rumor has been kind of lingering and you kind of felt like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to see if people still care, I guess.
I mean, like when that game came out, and maybe this reflects your experience or not, but like a lot of LAN party situations around StarCraft, you know, like I used to play Magic and I'd go to my local like game shop to like, you know, sit down and play some cards, but there was also like a row of 12 computers. And like, this was the game that I really identified with as, you know, competitive PC gaming. Like at first, like, yeah, there was kind of, you know, there was like Quake and stuff back then, but this really kicked it off. And definitely took off more than something like Command & Conquer. I mean, there were so many different Red Alert and Command & Conquer games that like they all kind of blended together, but StarCraft always had its own real strong identity. And for all the series that Blizzard has exploited, this one hasn't really been, I feel like it hasn't been tapped. Like StarCraft 2 has been out now for what, 6-7 years?
I think something like that.
3 expansions.
And that's kind of it. And there was 2 expansions for this, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Brood War and...
Yeah.
No, it's just Brood War.
Just Brood War.
Just Brood
Brood
War.
War. Sorry.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of potential. Maybe people missed out on this game back in the day.
Well, for the longest time, I was joking, they're going to do the next MMO for Blizzard. It's going to be Space of StarCraft, you know?
That would be rad.
You know, but
Well,
that didn't happen.
What was the third-person shooter game?
Ghost,
yeah.
Yeah. That didn't
got
come out
canceled,
either.
Right? Yeah. Or that never officially got canceled, but it's not out. How many years later? 10? So it's probably not going to happen. No. It might, though. Who knows? StarCraft, yeah, just for like running through the specs. Base game and Brood War, that is included. It's going to be 4K ultra high definition, which they showed during that trailer. Yeah, I mean, they show the wipe kind of, and they showed it to the wider resolution too, right? And then it'll have matchmaking. We do have a question from Bob Jones. He's a GameSpot regular, but on Twitter he was asking, how much will it cost and can I play it offline? They have not announced pricing yet. They've said it's going to be out this summer, so I'm assuming we'll see more soon. We don't know anything either. In terms of playing it offline, I would assume you could play the campaign offline. I don't think you...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't matchmake, but...
That and maybe if you could LAN, possibly.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's
no one
offline.
really lands anymore.
That's true. Nobody lands anymore.
It was, for me, LAN was Halo and then Warcraft 3, the mods, tower defense mods.
Yeah.
Winter Mall. That was the best. That was the peak of my niche tower defense hobby. And then Assassin's Creed Revelations came along and had tower defense, so it ruined it for me.
I have a question for you.
Sure. All right.
Just going off of that. I mean, Peter, you were talking about StarCraft kind of kicking off competitive PC, like what we think of as competitive PC gaming. Does going back to it have the same effect? Like, does returning to it have the same value, or does it have, like, what is the value there?
I think that it's not really going to get that many new people because you probably would have just played StarCraft 2 if you're going to play an RTS. I think it's the nostalgia feeling that like a lot of people have with StarCraft, and in some people's minds, they actually like StarCraft and Brood War more than more than StarCraft 2. So I could see that potentially coming into play. Maybe esports. I don't know. They're gonna try. They're gonna try because they still have.
This, yeah?
I think that they'll try because they had a lot of StarCraft 2 up and coming pros and pros that came over from the Brood War scene.
Sure. Okay.
So maybe there'll be more like invitationals or kind of like one-off
special thing,
kind of things like that.
Right,
but it's hard to say. I did do the LAN thing like you did with StarCraft and Counter-Strike. Those two were the games that were kind of ping-pong between if we went to a LAN cafe. And I don't know. It's a weird timing. I'd rather have...
That was just a funny way to say cafe. Is
LAN
that what you're
cafe.
laughing at too?
No, I was laughing at you.
I was also laughing.
Oh, sorry.
Clearly he doesn't know what a LAN cafe is.
I know what a LAN cafe is. I don't know what a LAN cafe is. I know what cafe is from Majora's Mask. I don't know. Okay.
I also was laughing at cafe because of Majora's Mask.
Yeah, that's like the hardest side quest in that game.
It takes all 3 days.
I know. Don't bring up that horror. Like, goddamn StarCraft conversation. For those who don't know, Jean-Luc Seipke, our producer in the back room, said that the trailer did say land support.
Nice.
Sweet.
So for those who don't know, what did Brood War do to the base game?
It basically added a bunch of units, essentially, that changed the way the game works. So Lurker was a huge one, which is like a sieging unit for the Zerg that, could burrow, and then it shoots out kind of like a line of spikes, essentially, but you'd have to have observers, or you'd have to scan it. So it made you think more about those kind of things. Dark Templar for the Protoss. So it just changed how you thought about the game, I guess, because you had to worry about all these cloaked units that you didn't have to before, and kind of adapt your strategies to that. Medic was huge for Terran because it could heal your stimmed Marines. So it's just more of like a meta thing for the game. That's kind of how it changed. But I think Brood War made that game a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying when this got announced, and we were talking about like Halo Wars 2 came out this year as well, and it was kind of, lackluster. Callie, you reviewed it.
I did review it.
You gave it a 6 out of 10?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't love it. It was an okay game, but it didn't, like, as a Halo fan and RTS fan, I was kind of hoping for a better blend of both, but I think they kind of went in both directions, didn't have a good singular identity. I also wanted to talk about the, like, kind of current state of the RTS genre, because there aren't a lot releasing. There's a decent amount, and there's some cool, interesting games coming out, especially last year, but it's nothing, like, huge. I don't know if Starcraft Remastered will be enough to, like, kickstart another generation of these games, but
no way.
I mean, ideally it would, but I don't think it will, but...
I forgot you live in an ideal world.
Yeah, we need an optimist sitting next to Crummy Curmudgeon. Oh, sorry, that's a Twitter handle that a GameSpot fan, Crummy Curmudgeon, and I think it's you.
It's down here in my phone.
Tay, you were saying,
but I mean, if there was a remaster that I really want from Blizzard, it's actually Diablo 2.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen, but like or not everyone's, but some of the people in the office were immediately like, oh, they did StarCraft Remastered. Let's just do Diablo 2 Remastered. Because I spent so much time playing that game, and I think that would be really cool. I thought maybe they'd do it last year at BlizzCon because it was the 20th anniversary for Diablo, and I don't know, we'll see. I'd rather have that than StarCraft Remastered, but that's just me.
It's just weird that, going back to the RTS stuff, I mean, last year was Total War Warhammer, Ashes of the Singularity, Homeworld, Deserts of Carrick, what was the... Off-World Trading Company, Soren Johnson, who's a lead designer in Civ 4, he released Off-World Trading Company, which is a really good game. It was a really good game last year. Then Dawn of War 3 is pretty close on the horizon. Yeah. There's a decent amount of RTS games coming out in that space, but it doesn't seem like the audience is there anymore to make them huge, right? Like you mentioned Command & Conquer. I have that 15th anniversary edition through Origin, and it's like 18 games or something. Red Alert 2 is one of my favorite games, period. And I play that every once in a while still. And I played Homeworld last year. That game was great. Ashes of the Singularity was cool, and the scale that it portrayed. You could zoom out, and you could command like battalions, but also single units, and see like an entire planet. Technically impressive. Off-World Trading Company was a cool take on economy and how that could transfer into the real-time strategy genre. But I don't know. There's nothing that's really... you see Shooters had a watershed year in 2016. Here you see the clown from It. And that's right. Or the bellhop from Home Alone 2, if you're into that.
I think, the problem...
sorry, one more. Herkimer Homokov from Congo.
Oh
there we go.
God.
Continue, sorry.
There was certainly a time when like Redwood Studios was like pumping out new Command & Conquer games and like changing up settings and like adding a lot of new units and stuff, where it felt like you could really pay attention to the RTS genre and get something new out of it every couple months, or something to look forward to. But gaming as a whole, like especially on PC, has sort of blown up in so many ways now, because it's borrowing a lot from consoles. The RTS genre has kind of just disappeared. But I don't think it'll ever be like a huge mainstream success where like an RTS game is like up front. But I think it'll always be around. And we'll just have fewer players. But to see Off-World Trading Company come out and do something that really surprised a lot of people. Like that would be cool to see. I think more experimentation within the genre.
Yeah, it's weird
to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Maybe like the early 2000s. It seemed like every property, not even early 2000s, but I mean, Battle for Middle Earth came out. I actually like those games. They kind of fell too much into the rock paper scissors formula of simpler RTS games. I mean, Halo Wars is a great
Yeah, I was gonna say like Halo Wars is very much the pared down simplified version, and I actually did like the combination of like, oh, here's stuff for Halo fans and here's like a simpler RTS thing. I think it's good if you don't want the barrier to entry that a lot of RTS games have.
Right.
But it's just like it's not doing anything new or different or interesting to keep your attention.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem for me with that.
Yeah, I was playing Homeworld finally like late last year, and this was, I mean, a couple months before Halo Wars 2 came out, and that was actually Gearbox did that with Gearbox released it. Yeah, and it was a good RTS. It was they took Homeworld from space and brought it to like the desert planet where it supposedly started. It was a prequel to all those if you were into those games back in the day. But I mean, turn-based strategy has been flourishing. Like you have XCOM, you have Civilization, and I'm just naming Firaxis stuff right now. But of course, you have like Fire Emblem. You have that's super different, but it's still like it's such a integral part of like the RPG space. Off the top of my head, I know Banner Saga just had a collection release. You should play those games if you haven't yet. Those are on Xbox One now.
Yes,
or at least they're about to be. But are they? Did it release yet?
I think it's on its way.
Okay.
I mean, but like in the next week if it's not already out.
Yeah, so you should play those if you play on Xbox One and haven't played Banner Saga 1 or 2 yet. Not RTSs though. I also just kind of I'm wondering if there is going to be like that renaissance year for RTS. Like you said, it's never going to be as widespread as shooters. And last year, kind of shooters will always be around, but last year it was a lot of innovation in that genre. And like you said, I don't think RTS has the same prevalence.
And it's more than shooters too. It's just like games like Mass Effect, like just like bigger like grand scale games that maybe have an RPG element to them or something. But sort of these grander adventures, because when you're managing like little units on a field, like that doesn't feel maybe as exciting to a lot of people. I think right off the bat, you really have to get through the barrier to entry that Callie was mentioning for a lot of these games to experience what makes them so great. They don't have that instant gratification.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest barrier.
I also think too, I think someone in Twitch chat, I think it's Console Hot 92 had mentioned too that with the kind of flourishing of MOBAs, like Dota 2, League of Legends, maybe Heroes of the Storm, sorry, HOT, same acronym. Maybe a lot of the people that used to play RTS games, because Dota basically came out from Warcraft 2 or 3, from 3, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of those players have kind of transitioned over to MOBAs.
Right.
And so because of that, you're losing kind of like your player base for RTS games as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you pay attention, there are a decent amount of RTS games coming out, and they're of high quality, a few of them. I really liked Homeworld, if you haven't played that yet. If you're like a Halo fan, kind of passing fan of RTS, Halo Wars 2 might satisfy that itch.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it I didn't hate it, so it's...
Yeah. But for all, kind of waiting, like, go play Off-World Trading Company. That game is awesome. And it's really cool. It, like I said, it's a lead designer of Civilization 4. So he took the economy aspects of Civilization games, he played those and kind of made it into a real-time strategy game on Mars. You're settling Mars with these corporations, and it's really, really engaging and fun, and more intense than you might think in an economy-based game. But anyway, let us know if we missed any RTS games. I'm sure we did. I know we did. Let us know which ones you've played throughout the years, which ones you might want to see remastered, just like StarCraft is getting with its summer release coming from Blizzard. Again, we will update you more with the price and the actual specific release date when we find out.